Dear friends, how are you? My name is Lang and my family name is Chen. I'm going to share with you all my talk with the title Decolonizing Development Cooperation in the Context of Mekong Watershed, Southeast Asia, where IP are living. IP stands for Indigenous Community in short. This is a very important topic, cross-cutting event in Southeast Asia for over a century. Development cooperation is usually between those nations which have a lot of money and those nations which have a little money, but which are rich in natural resources and minerals. Then, decolonizing development cooperation is appropriate to work toward equalizing the relationship between these nations. Before we talk about decolonization, we have to define what colonization is. Colonization is a violent process whereby people from one country take over the country of another people and use it as a source of raw material for gaining profit to develop their own economies. It can be summed up as the violent appropriation of another people's land and labor. So how we might act? Is it justified? It is said to be a civilizing process based on the idea that the colonizer ways of life is superior to that of the colonized, and that the colonized will benefit from being brought up to the same standard of civilization as their colonizers. But this process of civilization is never meant to go too far. To prevent this from happening, racial theories was invented that thought that IP was incapable of ruling themselves. Colonization then was a combination of military violence, thefts, political domination, and psychological oppression supported by ideas of racial superiorities. What then of decolonizations? The Vendor Report of 2022 suggests that decolonization is the active reversal of colonizations. This would mean colonized people regaining their independence and self-respect. If this is what decolonization is, what does it mean for development agencies who are part of the former colonizing stage? It would mean the reversal of all previous relationships of domination, exploitation, and superiorities. Then it would involve working as equal partner for the IP in their former colonies, rather than having IP working for you. But this is never the case. Many local NGOs seem to be working for overseas funding agency, following their direction and complying with their criteria for item-driven approvals. How can we explain this continuation of colonial relations in the post-colonial eras? The answer is that the decolonization process has never been completed. What happened was that the newly independent state, who was admitted into a global framework of cross-national inequality. On the one hand, there was those states in the global north which had grown wealthy through the colonial exploitation of other peoples. On the other hand, there are those newly formed states whose countryside and people have been ravaged by their former colonizers and who continue to be ravaged by neo-colonial relationship of unequal trade and financial dominance. How is it continue of colonial plunder justified? It is justified by the ideology of development. Development in today's world of global capitalism means the expansion of capitalist relation of production to all corners of the planet, especially those corners of the planet where capitalist relations have not traditionally existed. Particularly, I have in my ears those corners of the world occupied by IP living close to nature according to their own spiritual belief and communal system of governance. The capitalist relation of production that are being spread under the name of development are relations of exploitation aimed at maximizing the profitable return on capital investment. They are supported by a set of values according to which humans and nature are valued only for their utility in the process of production, where nature is valued only as a material resources to be exploited for profit seeking, and humans are valued only as a supplier of labor and as a consumer of industrial commodities. Development is a mechanism by which capitalism and its culture of exploitation is extended to all corners of the world, to the exclusion of all other forms of knowledge, of understanding and behavior, particularly those of IP communities. Now, I would love to share about the effect of development on IP in the context of rural economic development. Rural economic development in the global south is driven by Ministry of Agriculture with a mindset imbued with capitalist values. It is a World Bank dictatorship. Yes, they are persuaded to follow World Bank to arrange agricultural production for exporting by creating favorable conditions for larger foreigner transitional corporations to incorporate IP farmers into their operation as exploited workers. The outcome is the separation of IP farmers from their land, from their community, and from their culture. They are individualized, their community networks are fractured, they are deprived of autonomy, introduced to a world of individual enterprise, commercial competition, and market dependency. The resource for IP farmer is dependency upon global markets, vulnerability to exploitative contracts, and debt trap caused by falling prices for agricultural products and rising costs of agricultural inputs. They are also exposed to growing risks to plant, animal, and human health from the use of pesticide and herbicide mandated by the requirement of commercial monoculture. In essence, rural economic development is the refunction IP and the land for use by capitalist enterprise. In the past, this refunctioning would have been done violently by foreigner armies, but today It is done by their own government imbued with the ideology of modernization, which stigmatizes IP as backward and as living in the shameful condition of poverty. Speri's view is different. In Speri's view, IP are not poor, they are rich. They are rich in terms of social relationship, in terms of access to land and its natural resources. Neither are they backward. Their knowledge of how to use their land sustainably is exactly what the world today desperately needs to counter the poisoning of environments and the destruction of biodiversity caused by industrial agriculture. Where IP can be found today living in poverty, it is because their land has been taken under rural economic development, which oriented toward capitalist industrial development. This is not an original form of poverty. It is a product of development. Speri's work in Vietnam, there's around 14 million IP people of more than 54 different ethnic identities. And our work over the last 30 years has been to empower IP community-based organizational and institutional consolidation in order to maintain the ecological landscape for their local food variety securities. Our actions follow their philosophy of nurturing nature, and we recognize that to nurture nature, we have to nurture knowledge, practices, and belief in sustaining their livelihood sovereignty and their well-being. During this time, Speri has come to understanding their aspiration for livelihood sovereignty, which defined as 5 interrelated livelihood identity rights, necessary for regenerating indigenous people's security and well-being. First, the right to their own land. Second, the right to their own religion of nurturing nature. And third, the right to their own knowledge and culture. Fourth, the right to their own rotational cultivation of local seed variety. Fifth, the right to co-governance their natural resources with neighboring community and local authorities. It is this right that are being directly put at risk by the encroachment of industrial agriculture into the landscape. Speri works to defend IP community from this encroachment by working with them and empowering their wisdom, customary law, and knowledge in land use practices, and lobby for their communal land right to be legally tied. Meanwhile, there are many development agencies who finance Southeast Asian government to reallocate communally owned land to individual title ready for appropriation by capitalist enterprises. In other words, the contribution of many international aid agencies is to the dispossessing of IP from their land and the turning of formerly independent farmers into wage-dependent workers, working for foreign-owned industrial corporations and destroying local ecological landscapes. What are these aid agencies really aiding? They are aiding the destruction of forest landscape that the world so desperately needs in the fight against climate change. So, why are they so keen on spreading this environment destruction to everywhere in the world? Can't they see that by doing so, they are threatening their own existence? It is in everyone's interest to end the social and ecological destruction caused by the expansion of industrial agriculture into the rainforests of the world. Can I finish by saying that not all international development agencies fit the profile that I have presented here? There are some NGO funding agencies, like Saudi, who are understanding of grassroots participatory learning and respecting of IP communities, and who are contributing to the empowerment of this community to regain their own values and their livelihood identities, so they can stand on their own community self-determinations. Thank you to you all for listening.